One of the main questions I get asked is, how long does it take to learn English? Some people say it's 6 months, some people say it's a few years, and other people say you never really stop learning. So it seems like nobody knows, right? Well, that's not true, because someone actually did find the answer. And it wasn't an English teacher, it wasn't a linguistics researcher, it was actually the US government. They wanted to know how long it would take to turn an English speaker into a fluent foreign language speaker. So we'll talk about what that means for you and your English learning journey. But first we need to ask an even bigger question. What does it mean to actually know a language? One of the most memorable lessons when I did my master's degree was about all the ways there are to know a word. It's not just knowing the meaning. There are actually 12 ways to know a word. So that totally changed the way I think about English. It made me realize how many layers there were to knowing a language. So here are the 12 ways. First is pronunciation. Can you say it right? Spelling. Can you write it? Grammar. Do you know what kind of word it is, how it works in a sentence? The definition. Do you understand the meaning? Connotation. Does it feel positive or negative? Are there multiple meanings? Like run, for example. You can run fast, run a business, or run out of time. Context. Can you use it naturally in a sentence? Register. Is it formal, casual, or slang? Collocations. Do you say make a decision or do a decision? Word families. Do you know decide, decision, decisive? Associations, the synonyms, opposites, and related ideas. And then all of that again, but receptively. So when someone else uses it, can you understand it in all of these ways? So yes, like I say, a lot of layers, and it probably won't surprise you to learn that even native speakers don't know everything about every word. I'll tell you how many words native speakers do know later. It's going to be far fewer than you think. The main way that we measure somebody's language ability is with something called the CEFR, or the Common European Framework of Reference. And it's actually a really cool system because you can't just measure English with it. You can measure any language. It has 6 levels. The first level is A1, or beginner level. You can say hello, introduce yourself, and order coffee. You know between 1 and a few hundred words. Then we have A2, or pre-intermediate level. You can join simple conversations about everyday life. You know about 1,000 words. Then, at B1, or intermediate level, you can start talking more deeply about certain topics, like your family, everyday life, your hometown, or your hobbies. You know between 2 and 3,000 words. Then, at B2, or upper intermediate level, you can start watching films and understanding the news. You know between 4 and 5,000 words. Then we have C1, or advanced level. You can start having some deep conversation about complex topics. You'll know between 6 and 8,000 words. And finally, we have C2, or near native level. You sound almost like a native, and you know between 8 and 10,000 words, and you are still learning. So, if C2 is the last level, and you know between 8 and 10,000 words, then how many words does a native speaker know? So the average educated native speaker, that's somebody with a university degree, knows between 20 and 25,000 words. But, and here's the crazy thing, that's just actively. Those are the words that they can think of and use. But when we talk about the words that they understand, the number gets a lot higher, 40 to 50,000. So they understand double the words that they can use. So you can see how it's quite complicated and how learning English is a lifelong journey even for a native speaker. You've probably noticed that your listening is better than your speaking. and your reading is better than your writing, and it is the same for a native speaker. So that's how many words a native speaker knows. But the question was, how long does it take to get there? Well, like I said, somebody did find the answer. In the 1950s, the American government had a problem. They needed diplomats, soldiers, and intelligence officers who could speak a foreign language fast. So they designed something called the Foreign Service Institute, or the FSI. Now imagine this. You're an army officer and you have to start studying at 8 a.m. every day. Vocabulary, grammar, speaking, listening, no English for 5 hours. And then you go home and you do homework for another 2 to 3 hours every day. That's not just learning a language, that is a full-time job. After years of doing this, the FSI calculated how long it would take for an English speaker to learn a foreign language to a professional fluency. So good enough that they can use it in a job. Here's what they found. If your language is close to English, something like French or Spanish, then it's going to take you between 600 and 750 hours. If your language is a bit further away, something like Thai or Russian, then it's going to take about 1,100 hours. And if your language is quite different from English, something like Arabic or Mandarin, then it's going to take 2,200 hours. That's about 3 months of non-stop study. No breaks, no sleeping, just learning English. And that's not to get to a native level. That's to get to a level where you can work in English. So, if it ever feels like it's taking a long time to improve your English, you're not alone. That is the way it is. And you're just walking the same path that these soldiers walked. The only difference is that you haven't got the army yelling in your ear, telling you to go faster. So you can see why this is such a big question. How long it takes to learn English depends on your language, your free time, and your routines. There are over 500,000 English words, but most people just use a few thousand. In fact, the most common 1,000 words make up 80% of conversation. So you don't have to learn everything. You just have to learn the right things. So how can you do that? 30 minutes of self-study every day, or 2 hours a week with a professional English teacher like me, will get you there. So yes, it might take months, it might take years, but the moment that you start to understand an English joke or give an idea that's 100% you, then you'll know that it's all been worth it. And that is what learning English is all about.